What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about Lucid. I want to go over some of the data points, what's moving it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So Lucid is down 3.9%, 16.90 the low, $18 the high. So it did show some optimism first thing. Unfortunately, the broader market did kind of drag it down, but I want to go over some of the data points and what's really causing it to recover right now. 14.3 million shares being traded, 9.3 is the average. Most of that volume is coming from algorithmic trading because even on the secondary market, these are some of the transactions. So somewhat evenly divided. So half buying, half selling. So this is one thing that really kept it kind of higher levels. First thing is a nice buy, 1.2 million. 380,356, and you can always pause the video and look at the timestamp. So big money was definitely buying Lucid first thing, and then the broader market kind of took hold and started to bring it down slightly. These are some of the transactions occurring on the dark pool. So some big ones today: 2.5, 1.1, 1.1, 1.09. So feel free to pause it and kind of correlate this with the stock price just to see whether they are buys or sells. That's the downside of the dark pool. It's anonymous and it's sometimes very difficult to determine whether some are buys or sells, but based on some of the timestamps, it looks like big money was buying into Lucid, causing this nice push higher. Couple of things. So we did have one data point first thing. So Michigan consumer sentiment came in at 50.3, forecast of 53. So in general, this is pretty good. And so this is a big inflationary data point. Aside from that, though, we did have this that came out, a unofficial jobs report, and because of the whole shutdown, we haven't really had that much in data, and this did signal that in October, looks like non-farm payroll did drop by 9,000 to 159,000, so kind of stagnant over the pretty much the last couple months. So that's maybe a positive thing. This did cause most stocks to really move higher, but what's really causing the market to heat up pretty much right here from the bottom is this right here. So shutdown persists as Democrats hold firm on 1-year health subsidy extension. And this goes to show, it looks like today they did scale back on a lot of their demands, pretty much wanting to end the government shutdown. And if this goes through, it could be pretty much rubber stamped and approved in a couple hours time frame. So the market is taking this as a extremely strong positive and really pushing higher, because we had even Fed speakers early this morning saying because of the whole government shutdown is really going to start impacting GDP and a lot of other kind of things. So it wasn't necessarily the best, but nonetheless, if they somehow for whatever reason are able to avoid the shutdown and kind of that goes back to normal, markets should really move higher. So let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. Specific to Lucid, there hasn't been any SEC filings, no press releases, no new analyst ratings. So it is fair to assume now the market has fully priced in everything from their earnings. So we're pretty much at neutral, if that kind of makes sense. So I'll go over some of the technicals and so forth that you can kind of expect going forward. But at the time of doing this video, shorts are returning 383,000 shares, 32.07% of the free float's being shorted, works out to be 40.7 million shares overall being shorted. So crazy stuff. So all-time high short interest on a side note is 33.15. So we're inches away from that. So I brought this up time and time again. I get it, like Lucid operationally hasn't really worked out, but there's many stocks out there that don't do jack all, and they have, let's say, a 5-10% short interest. So 32.07 is just mind-blowing if you ask me. DTC sitting at 4.17 days, so that does signal that shorts are very overextended. And even looking more kind of finite, first thing, shorts did increase roughly around 877,000 shares. Since then, they kind of tapered off. So they were pretty much the culprits on why Lucid did kind of go down. So it is rather unfortunate. But aside from that, looking at the options, 1.26 million in calls, 3.7 in puts, and then 45% of all the options being done are bearish in nature. From a bull standpoint, you see a consensus for it to be roughly around that $18 range by the end of next week. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub, looks like 15. A little bit more than that. So we'll have to wait and see how that does play out. But nonetheless, though, Right now with it at 1733, it was able to successfully get over this S1, largely because of that shutdown optimism that is starting to kind of wave across the broader market. So 1716 is going to be that key level for it to close above today, and then 2014. So I'm looking at the one-day chart on a side note, so very strong support and resistance points, so something to keep in mind. Aside from all of that fun stuff, popping over to the chart, it is still technically, for right now, below that 10-day moving average. So kind of shows a little bit of slowing momentum. Yesterday, it did show some signs of life that it wanted to actually move higher. So I see a lot of individuals calling for the bottom for Lucid. And historically speaking, every time it does break below that 50-day moving average, it causes like a 35% push lower. So it did land exactly where it was supposed to. So I wouldn't be surprised if we did start to see a little bit of a rally. And if a shutdown, like if that's ended, then yeah, in theory, the broader market is going to really move higher. And so Lucid, in theory, should really move with that. Looking at the market position though, for today, you see a little bit less willing buyers, which is rather surprising. A little bit more willing sellers are roughly around that $19 range. So if Lucid does start to build up some good momentum, it might struggle a little bit with that. But nonetheless, as I mentioned at the very beginning of the video, a lot of the volume is coming from algorithmic trading, and you can see that from the flow right here, a lot of the smaller transactions. So definitely AI is moving Lucid quite significantly as per usual. So I feel Lucid is kind of stuck in limbo right now. This has been kind of my biggest issue with Lucid, is there wasn't really anything crazy negative from the earnings. There was a lot of good positives, but a lot of those positives are for the future. So I feel like for short-term catalysts, Lucid is kind of at the mercy of macro data. So potential rate cut optimism, shutdown optimism, that is going to be one of the main things that really drives Lucid potentially higher. So let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. Like I said, on a side note, no new analyst ratings. We might still get possibly like 2 or 3. So Morgan Stanley, Latenberg, OpenAI, CFRA, those ones have yet to give a rating. Same with RBC. Actually, no, I believe RBC did. Just clearly this isn't updated. So we might get maybe 2 or 3 new ones, but still, I think right now the biggest thing for Lucid is a macro type of data coming out that's going to really push it higher. One thing I have consistently mentioned though with Lucid is that during these sell-offs, if you do truly believe in what Lucid's trying to accomplish, look at buying long calls. So for instance, if you feel it's going to be $25 by throwing out August 2026. You'd make 44% on the actual stock price, common stock appreciating, versus if you buy a long call, you can make 89.2%. So definitely very advantageous to look at options. And if you don't know options, I suggest in signing up for Moomoo, because it has all of this for free and it makes kind of options very simple. And so yeah, again, you can do kind of maneuver what you want, gives you a lot of good strategies, and all you have to do is hit trade. So there's also some good promos as well. If you throw $100 at it, they give you $50 back. So definitely take advantage of that. And then one final thing, pop over to my Patreon. I put out daily day trades on stocks, options, crypto. Even in my post yesterday where I did put out a lot of day trades, I even did signal that I expect a dip early on in the day, followed by a market recovery. Didn't really happen so much in Lucid's case, but most stocks did kind of follow that criteria. So you had a little bit of a dip first thing, such as Starbucks, SoundHound. A lot of them had that dip and then it kind of moved higher. So let me know your thoughts on that, and kind of worthwhile to pop over to the Patreon, take a look at a lot of the swing trades I've put out there. I've kind of did a lot more lower, quieter names that have been slowly appreciating. So definitely worthwhile to pop over there and check that out. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.